Oh, what's up again there, guys? Brian here, D3 Topics Gamer here to share with you another one of my worst best ranking list videos to share with you guys today. As I'm sure you could tell from the title, this is going to serve as a follow-up to one of my last worst best videos in which I actually ranked all of the individual PlayStation console original designs. So now that we've gotten the consoles out of the way, we cannot forget the controllers, because the controller for PlayStation has certainly gone through a number of stages of evolution. So I figured I would just go through each one and rank them in terms of how I prefer in terms of worst to best. And before I get into my ranking, like always, if you do happen to enjoy this video by the end, do not forget to give this video a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to track me on my future videos. And also, remember, it's just my personal ranking. Don't take it too personal. If there's a certain control that you actually prefer over another, this is just how I feel. So starting off with number 5, and without question, has to go to the worst PlayStation controller. Has to go to the original PlayStation 1 controller. The original one. A lot of people don't know that the first controller was actually missing something rather important that most controllers at the time had, and that is joysticks. First one didn't have them. Yes, I do know that a later model of the PlayStation 1 did in fact include the joysticks, but the fact that these ones don't definitely feels weird. Certainly makes the controller a lot smaller. And because of that, it's like, has hardly any weight. I mean, I know there's certain games that you don't really need joysticks in, and that's perfectly fine, but without joysticks, it just kind of looks fairly strange. Now again, I don't hate this controller. It is the original. It is classic. In fact, I even keep a model of the first PlayStation 1 controller at my desk at all times. So, I don't forget where it came from, but that doesn't stop it from being the one that I probably wouldn't even use the most. I mean, heck, even the main PlayStation 1 controller that I was using did have the joystick, so the fact that this one doesn't is the main reason why, sadly, it has to go to taking the worst spot in terms of PlayStation controllers. Going on to the number 4 spot is obviously not going to surprise anybody, and that has to go to the DualShock controller for the PlayStation 2. Now, not only did it have, in my opinion, obviously it had the joystick, the joysticks, which again, the secondary PlayStation 1 controllers also had the joystick. I just think the rumble was a lot better. I think that's like the one key factor that I think makes the DualShock better than the original was. I think the rumble was definitely better. Just model-wise, they're completely identical outside of color. I don't really think the PlayStation 1, I don't think those joysticks ones came in alternate colors outside of gray, but I do know that the PlayStation 2 controllers did come in multiple colors, if I remember correctly, and I just think that the DualShock was certainly better with the PlayStation 2 controllers than the PlayStation 1, so that's why, for me, it just easily takes the number 4 spot. Now, what takes the number 3 spot is definitely going to surprise some people, and that is going to have to go to the PlayStation 4 controller. Now, this is a great controller. Not too many complaints. However, the one thing that always seemed to bother me is that, for some reason, when I actually look at the classic design of a PlayStation controller and the PlayStation 4 one, I just cannot shake the feeling that the PlayStation 4 controller looks like it was just a standard PlayStation controller that just gained a lot of pounds. Therefore, it made it the most bloated and, dare I say, fat controller. Now, don't get me wrong. The touchpad in the middle, that was fine. It had a speaker in the middle, it had the LED light in the front, it had kind of somewhat adapted triggers, which definitely made the R2 and L2 buttons a lot easier to press. And I'll do the placement of the buttons is certainly great. And the fact that you had 2 charging ports, you could either charge it from here or you could charge it from the bottom. There was a lot of function to it, and it does fit good in the hand. But I cannot shake the fact that this PlayStation 4 controller does look somewhat bloated, and that's it's usable, but again, just when I look at the line of them, this one just stands out as being just the fat controller. Now, don't trust me. Great controller. Used it for several years, but that's just how I view it. So that's why it takes the number 3 spot on my list. Taking the number 2 spot on my list is going to have to go to the PlayStation 3 controller. This is without question the best classic design PlayStation that was ever made, because outside, obviously, for reasons, it was wireless. I don't think most people prefer to play games with wires anymore because they get in the way. So, obviously, it was a great wireless controller. I do like that this one had both the 6-axis and the DualShock 3. A lot of people did not like the 6-axis, and the 6-axis during, I believe, the first early like the first early year caused like a lot of problems for a lot of games, but it was a very innovative idea. I think older models even took that out, but this one just so happens to both have the 6-axis and the DualShock 3. So not only was the rumble a lot better, but I think the 6-axis was definitely usable in a number of games. It wasn't perfect, but it definitely did work, and I did appreciate it. And I also like the fact that this one was also the triggers were customizable. Now, one thing you might not notice, not only did I add grips to my joystick, but I actually also added these extended clips that went on the back of the L2 and R2 buttons. And that seems to be the only way that I can seem to really enjoy holding this controller. And that does seem to be a lesson that they very much took into heart when they were designing the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 controllers in terms of the L2 and R2 buttons. Also, it also had great battery life. I liked how it had the PlayStation symbol right in the middle. I don't think, I mean, don't get me wrong, the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 controllers also had the PlayStation symbol, but I like how in this one it's an actual button. So I thought that was really, really neat. And it came in a great number of colors, and overall, it just feels great in the hand. Doesn't feel too light, doesn't feel too heavy, doesn't eat the wires. This is without question the best classic design PlayStation controller ever made. And the fact that it goes to my personal favorite PlayStation console made it even more enjoyable to me. So that's why I would even say out of all these controllers, this is the one I spent the most time using. I mean, I still play my PlayStation 3 even now, so that's why it takes the number 2 spot. But I cannot deny that the best PlayStation controller to date is unquestionably the new one, and that is the PlayStation 5 controller. Now, it wasn't it wasn't bloated like the PlayStation 4 controller, which I thought it wasn't a major problem, but it was something that made it stick out. But this absolutely has a nice, sleek design with sharp edges. It definitely has a little bit of weight, but it isn't too much. I absolutely liked the color scheme. This makes it very, very customizable. I'm sure we're gonna get a bunch of different colors. I mean, they already released like a midnight black and like a red one recently, and I'm sure we're gonna get more colors of it in in the near future. It had the triggers. It had like semi adaptive triggers, which I thought were cool. Plus, it also the haptic feedback. The haptic feedback has been a game changer in terms of how I like to play my games. I mean, I don't have too many games that actually incorporate haptic feedback, but when you do play a game that has it, you're gonna have a hard time just playing a game that doesn't have it. I mean, that is such an innovative idea that very much affects your experience when playing certain games. It also carried the speakers and also from the PlayStation 4. It also had the LED lights, which I thought were also pretty awesome. It has great battery life. I actually really like how the buttons are kind of almost transparent. They don't just seem like standard buttons. They actually have like a little bit of clearness to them, which I haven't seen in other controls before, which is something I found really, really impressive. And the other thing that I thought was truly amazing is the attention to detail. I mean, some people don't even know this, but if you actually look really, really closely at the controller, you can actually see the 4 primary PlayStation symbols of the square, the circle, the triangle, and the square, and the X. And that, I mean, how they were able to do that is just incredible. And it almost kind of feels like they're meant for grips. I mean, they're not like rubber grips, but it does kind of, make it feel, like it kind of fits in the hand a little bit better. And that's something I find really incredible. And that's something none of the previous PlayStation controllers have. I mean, they really went out of their way. Maybe not so much in the design of the console, because as some of you guys know, I'm not too fond of the fact that it only looks good standing up, but they absolutely knocked it out of the park with the controller. This controller is amazing. I currently have 2 of them. I'll probably get maybe another one and switch out with one of my white ones so I can get one in different colors. But yeah, without question, the PlayStation 5 controller is the best designed controller for PlayStation to date, and I just cannot wait to see what they do. Maybe they might make modifications moving forward. Maybe they might make like a Pro controller. Who knows? But as it stands, this is my new favorite PlayStation controller ever. So that is my ranking of all the 5 primary classic PlayStation controllers for each console. If you have had a chance to try out all these controllers, how would you rank them? Share your ranking with me and everyone else in the comments down below. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you next time.